Hi, I'm Christine Weber. I love supporting mature yoga teachers getting their wisdom out there into the world so that you can make a living teaching yoga and you can live your passion. Um, so today I want to talk about the Epstein files and the role slash responsibility of yoga teachers, what we can do, everybody's going to have a different opinion, obviously, about what we should do. But I think there's a couple of things that are really important to point out that we can think about at least and see if that's something we want to adopt into our teaching and our, where we draw the line with our teaching. So first thing I'm going to do is tell you some stories, which is when I started teaching in 1995, many of my students were older people. I was, and always have been, I've been working with people older than me for 3 decades now, more than 3 decades. And so a lot of those people had political views that were different than mine. But back in the day, back in the 90s, you could have 2 people in a class and one would have voted for Reagan and the other one voted for Reagan was over then. Anyway, one of them would have voted for Bush and the other one would have voted for Clinton, and it would have been normal, and people still talk to each other. Even they would do different things, they would do things together. I'm thinking of this friend of mine, my friend of my father. So my father's very conservative. And he had this good friend back in the 80s who was like from New York City, and he was Jewish and he was an artist, and like they were so different. And they would play tennis together, regularly, and hang out and drink beer together. And they had totally different worldviews and different ideas about life, but they were friends. And fast forward 30 years, that doesn't happen much anymore. We are very much, and this is one of my points, and I put in the description, we have been very much socially engineered to be angry at the other side of the aisle. We have been socially engineered. This is part of what's coming out in the Epstein files. Epstein was involved in it. Of course, people like Peter Thiel are also very, very much involved in this very, very, very true conspiracy theory that we are socially engineered to be angry at the other side. And what that does is it deflects the blame and the anger from the true criminals, Epstein and his cabal, which it literally is a cabal of the elite who have been orchestrating this. It's so much more convenient for them to have people protesting against the Trump administration than to be pointing the fingers at and really burning down the structures that have created, and we have to burn down this end stage capitalism structures that have created what we're in right now. And if that doesn't happen, like, you think that the next person in office it's gonna be the same things as usual. You might not see as much, for example, you're not going to see as much anger and as much, really out there, like the administration totally being out there and totally being, racist and all that stuff. Like, really? That's bad, of course. I don't like it. I don't like what ICE is. I don't like any of that stuff. Of course, that's bad. But it's also a really convenient way to get everybody distracted from what's actually going on. Look into private equity, for example. And that Obama took the guardrails off of private equity. And they have been dismantling the middle class since for almost 2 decades, right? Dismantling small businesses, taking away people's savings. I mean, that whole thing has been going on under our noses. What else has been going on? How about surveillance and pre-crime? Palantir, which is Peter Thiel's thing, was created to identify pre-crime. And then there's warehouses going up to house people who have committed pre-crime. I mean, it's just full-on Tom Cruise stuff going on here, right? So when you start to remember that, when you start to look into it, and look into what Chinagate is too. That's another interesting one. Bill Clinton wasn't really impeached because of Monica Lewinsky, but because he was selling secrets to the military secrets to the Chinese. Everybody's in the military-industrial complex right now because that's where you can make so much money. I mean, these are the sort of things that have been going on right under our noses as we're being socially engineered to hate the other side. So how does this take us back to teaching yoga? So I've been teaching old people with very different views than I have for decades. And so I've always been, I want to say, careful and circumscribed about the way I talk to people. And now, as the Epstein files are revealing the true criminals, the ones who've been socially engineering us, we are all brainwashed under this stuff, So as that's being revealed, we can start talking about the idea of talking to people again, talking to people that disagree with you. You don't have to talk about politics, but get to know them. Like my dad got to know his extremely liberal artist friend. Get to know people who don't think like you. That's healthy, and then together we can make good decisions. We can make changes in the way that we're governed. We have the power to do that. So I think as yoga teachers, the first thing we can do is help people regulate their nervous system so that they can make better decisions, so that they know themselves better and can make better decisions. And I think another thing we can do is help people stay really positive and optimistic in the face of so much horrific revelation. So horrific to hear the stuff that's going on. And please, if you don't have access, I mean, if you only are looking at, legacy media, you're not getting the whole picture. You have to go deeper to see what some of these journalists are discovering from the Epstein files. And, it may come out at some point in mainstream or legacy, but it may not. And the White House said nobody's going to be held accountable. Like that's already been out there. So, okay, but that doesn't mean we, the people, can't keep people accountable. There may be some really tough times ahead, economically, socially. There may be really tough times ahead. As yoga teachers, we can help people self-regulate. We can help them understand that they're being socially engineered. Think about that. Like most people have never even considered that. And it's been happening under our noses for decades. So you're being socially engineered. It's not a conspiracy theory. Very good data out there on it. Maybe people need some guidance on who to listen to. Maybe you want to listen to Whitney Webb or read her books. Maybe you want to listen to Catherine Austin Fitts or read the stuff that she's written, so you understand. She's really good at the economy and money. Maybe there's other sources out there that can help you find news so that you're not just getting it from the same news sources that are owned by these people who have committed all these atrocities, right? And then, the positivity and the optimism, we have to believe in the force of good. We have to believe in the force of humanity. These people who have done these things they're mentally ill people. They're sociopaths. They are sick. They need treatment. They need to be in prison and getting a lot of treatment in prison. Most people aren't sociopaths. Most people aren't mentally ill. They may be feeling depressed and anxious, but that's not the same thing as the level of mental illness that we see in the people that control the world. So, and things can get better. That's the other thing, and things will get better. And we have to keep in mind that the force of the light is thousands of times stronger than the force of darkness. Keep that in mind. Share that with your students. Let them feel the goodness inside of themselves and even in their uncle or neighbor who thinks differently politically, still probably a good person. We have all been socially engineered. We've all been brainwashed. It's all coming to light at the revelations in the files, and there's a lot more that has to be revealed. There's a lot of women that have been deeply and tremendously hurt by what's going on. There's a lot of people of color that have been hurt by what's going on. Recognize that with empathy. The whole thing is bad. And reveals the good. Like the Hatha yogis said, you can't understand the light without the darkness. We are getting a really deep dive into the darkness right now, and it's not over, and it's going to keep coming out. And there may be all sorts of really terrible things that happen in the future because people want to talk about it. But we can't let it go, you know. And as yoga teachers, we can invite everybody to our classes who wants to be there with an open mind, who wants to be there respectfully, regardless of what they think, you know, and regardless of how they have been socially engineered. And I think when we keep that kind of attitude in our classes, like I would love some people that are deeply invested in the other side to let me help regulate their system, because it maybe helps them open up a little bit. And you know, so I think we have to be really open-minded about and have a bigger perspective on our teaching right now and on what's happening right now. I don't want to focus on doom and gloom, but I also don't want to just ignore what's going on. So I have to address it in some way. And I've been hesitant to be really vocal on social media with things like ICE and the pedophilia and stuff, because even though I know that's all off, it's awful. I totally agree with that. I've also known for quite a long time, more than a decade, I've had people telling me about stuff like this for a long time. And I used to just be like, I can't say anything because it's conspiracy theory. So much of it is coming true, and we'll see what more gets revealed. So I don't consider myself a conspiracy theorist or anything, but I certainly want to know what's going on. I'm also not like a political expert or anything. I'm not a financial expert, but I want to know what's going on, you know, and I've paid attention to it for a long time, and to see what's actually happening, and the stuff that I was always like, oh, that can't be right, coming into being the stuff about the 8-month abortions and the stem cells and all that stuff, the stuff about Epstein being involved in eugenics, all of this stuff coming out now. There have been people who've known about it for a long time. And to the main point I want to leave you with, sorry, I feel like I'm rambling, but the main point I want to leave you with today is, like, if you really get down to it, the whole brainwashing thing of how we're being forced to feel like there's another side and they're that true enemy, like that's the first step. That's the first thing we have to get over. Okay, well, I hope this is helpful. Please leave a comment. It's hard stuff. Like, I just want to talk about yoga and triangle pose, and, you know, but there's hard stuff to talk about. And yet I think we're being, you know, I see that we're being called as yoga teachers to provide some balance. And I hope we can do that. Thank you for being here. Leave a comment. Take care. See you next week.